house, and I've been there, as I say, for over 30 years now. So what's my connection? I've just been here a long time.
Thinking about it, 30 years ago. Are we still? Three. We'll go back in time, 30 years. I mean, at that point, as a young actor, did you ever imagine you would end up spending so much of your career in New Zealand?
Well, it was never on my list of ambitious things to do, get to New Zealand and work there. No, it wasn't. However, I did have a friend who used to organise his entire life, an actor, around travelling the world. If he heard that Bristol Old Vic was having a foreign tour, he'd call and say, "Can I be in the play?" So it was a natural question to ask him, what is your favourite country in the world? And before I finished the question, he came with the answer, New Zealand. Now this was 40 years ago, so I thought, what was it about New Zealand that was worth visiting? But you can see it in the movies, and then it's sensation to look at. There are only 4.5 million people there. A lot of sheep. Well, that's the caricature of the place. It's a bit like Wales. It's a bit like the Highlands of Scotland. Big and but unlike you keep getting in my life, please. The point about New Zealand, as far as the building is concerned, is there are no telegraph poles. There are no dry stone walls. There are no fences. There's no land chopped up as there would be if you were in the Lake District, which is probably what Tolkien had in mind, something like that sort of landscape. But you could go to whole areas of New Zealand where there's no signs of human beings. And there are places that we went to, you're going to see them now, right on the tops, lifted up by helicopters, to places where human beings have never been before, because they were inaccessible, except by helicopter. So that's the reason that the films are made there. But on top of that, it's a very congenial place socially. It's the best place to give women the vote. Very good on gay rights, and they also have state property.
Come in there and stand.
I never knew that. That's a fact I was unaware of.
Oh, we're going to go now.
My wife's in the audience. I mean, you mentioned the filming experience. Was filming The Hobbit substantially different from filming the Lord of the Rings trilogy? Was it the same basic deal?
Everybody,
Everyone behind the camera was doing the same job that they were doing 12 years ago. So, going back, it was working with old friends. Of course, people in front of the camera were different, but it felt very much the same. This time around, we were not filming in an old paint factory. We were in custom-built studios that Peter Jackson had built for King Kong, where Avatar was filmed, where Steven Spielberg is is in line to film. So the level of technology and the convenience and what was greatly improved. But the big thing, I think, making The Hobbit, is that we knew that you were waiting to see it. You know, when we started on Lord of the Rings, couldn't quite be sure whether anyone really wanted these movies to be made. I mean, a lot of people thought they shouldn't be made. How dare we trample over these classic books and turn them into a screenplay? But now the popularity of The Lord of the Rings was established this time, but we knew there were millions of people around the world who were waiting for them. So that was the biggest difference, a sense that we were doing something that was actually wanted.
I mean, one more question, and then I'll turn it over to the crowd. Are there any differences between playing Gandalf the Grey and Gandalf the White?
Well, Gandalf the White is a bit of a bore, frankly. I know he's cut his hair and he's shaved a bit and he looks rather nice in his white, but Peter Jackson and I always preferred Gandalf the Grey. You know, because he likes a smoke and a drink and a boogie with the hobbits. It's just a bit more humane than the driven commander who was Gandalf the White. I wanted to have a scene in the film where we saw Gandalf getting up in the morning, because I don't know if you noticed, nobody ever washes in Middle-earth. You never see them really going to bed, and I'd love to see what sort of pyjamas Gandalf wears. He probably doesn't have any. He's so dirty. He sleeps in his robe and everything. But And I want
2 more films to go.
yes, and I know we're going back to do 5 more weeks of work, and I've said to him, can we not have a scene where we see Gandalf getting up in the morning, lighting his first pipe, and then going to have a pee against a nice big New Zealand native tree? I'm just thinking in 3 dimensions.
Now listen, I'm going to turn it over, so I'm assuming there will be people with questions, so please do raise your hand, and there are microphones circulating, so if anyone has a question for Sarina, now is the moment. There's a hand over here, let's see, up here. Probably best to wait for the microphone, because we've discovered, unless you're ready to shout, and then we can say
yes. I'm doing... no, I'm not going to stand up. I'm doing an essay on Gandalf in comparison him to Dumbledore, and in terms of... I read your interview in the Times, and I'm not even going to go there. Of course, Gandalf is the greater wizard. But in terms of like character study and like Tolkien, where did he get the idea of Gandalf from? Because of the grey beard and the archetype of like Merlin. Where did your character studies? Like, where did you go with that?
We all know where J.K. Rowling got Dumbledore from. It's perfect obvious. I mean, I see big posters for the last Harry Potter movie with Mike Gambon, and I do a double take because I think it's me. I went to see him in a play recently. I said, Mike, just tell me, do you ever get mistaken for me? Because people are always coming up to me and saying, thank you for the Harry Potter movie. He said, oh, all the time, Ian. I said, what? I said, well, what do you do about it? He said, I just signed your name. But where did he get the wizard from? Well, yes, they had Merlin, I think probably, yes. And the pointed hat, I don't know. I think that the miracle of Tolkien as a writer is that he can take a sort of archetype of the wizard and divide it up between Saruman, the wizard Saruman, the wizard Gandalf, and now in this movie you'll see Doctor Who number 7, Sylvester McCoy as Radagast the Brown, perhaps the most charming of all the wizards. There are a couple of blue wizards who engagingly Gandalf says that he can't quite remember their names, and that's because Tolkien didn't give them any names. And takes this standard notion of a wizard and divides it into 4 and gives them each a personality. So I didn't do any research. In fact, the only research I did was I went back to Tolkien and I listened to him reading a little bit of The Hobbit and not very impressive it was. It was rather overacted. I'm a one to talk. But it was too much pipe smoking and rather patrician ability used to teach at Oxford University. So I just sort of took that and built on it a little bit. I think he's just such a humane character. He may be 7,000 years old. You know, he may have been sent by down to look after the people of Middle Earth, but he's become one of them really, and that's why I like him so much. So I think that's probably Tolkien's contribution to wizardry is the idea that wizards are actually like the rest of us in certain respects.
Now there was a hand, a very consistent hand up here. I think.
You're very quiet and polite. I hope you're going to get really excited about the movie.
Very rare.
Yes, I hope so.
So we know in Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship all got tattoos together, apart from Jonathan's Davies. And I was just wondering who initiated that idea, and were you very accepting of it? Did it take much persuading to get it?
No, I didn't take any persuading. I thought it was a lovely idea, and any chance I could get to hang out with Orlando Bloom, frankly. So we went down to a tattoo artist in the Cuba Mall in Wellington. All the fellowship went down together. And we could choose what part of our bodies we had tattooed. Mine is just there. Orlando's, I think, is down there. And Elijah Woods is and I held his hand all the way through. The only person who wouldn't have it done was the dwarf, John Rhys Davis.
You're absolutely mad, he said. You're like going to have some mad Maori with a bit of broken glass, giving you terrible diseases. It's now I mustn't do it. It's absolutely dangerous. I'm not going anywhere near it.
So he didn't, and the next thing I heard about John was that he was desperate to take his weight off and he had his stomach stapled together. Well, I thought, really? The tattoo didn't do him any harm. I mean, no, but we didn't get anything this time. We had a ring made, and I'm sorry I'm not wearing it tonight. The dwarves designed a ring, and I got one with some Gandalf insignia on the inside. I've also got one of the bee rings, you know. But I couldn't bring it tonight because obviously you wanted to see me, and there'd be no point if I was wearing a ring.
The next questioner is going to have to go somewhere. I'm told that. There's a waving hand, vigorously waving.
So, was there a big difference between the atmospheres of filming the previous movies and this movie? Just, you know, how close you were, or something along those lines?
Yes, no, I don't think there was. I mean, it all comes from the top, doesn't it? And the top, in this case, is Peter Jackson. And he runs the whole outfit as if it's a family reunion somehow. His live-in partner, Fran Walsh, writes the scripts with him. Her best friend, Philippa Boyens, writes the screenplay with them. Their kids, Billy and Kate, were both in Fellowship of the Ring. Katie wants to be an actress now. You all live very close together because Wellington's a small place. Peter's a great host, and you often see him at weekends around at his house and so on. So it's sometimes felt as if you're making the most expensive home movie ever made. But that atmosphere continued. I suppose the basic difference of the cast was that last time around it was rather young. I mean, the four Beatles, the four Hobbits, and Orlando, and they were sort of the driving engine of it all. And this time around, the dwarves, well, there are some young ones, but they're mainly middle-aged. Martin Freeman's a bit older than Elijah was, and so they're a little bit more staid, so I didn't feel quite so out of it as I sometimes did when the hobbits were all going off to surf and stay up all night. Yeah. But no, it was basically the same. It was a very, very friendly atmosphere.
Is there another hand? Yeah. Many hands. We'll do a question over here and then a question over there, I think.
Sorry, okay. Hi. Just two quick questions. First of all, I don't know if you've read Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, but if you have, do you feel as though Tolkien would be proud of the films? And second of all, can we be friends?
Can we be friends?
We can be friends. I haven't seen you yet, but I like the sound of your voice. Just going back to that little bit of Tolkien overacting in his reading of a little bit of The Hobbit, I got the impression that he would not have been averse to the idea of these stories written down by him being dramatised in some way. And after all, he sold the rights for the film to be made, albeit to pay off his tax. But and that there are elder members of the Tolkien estate, the clan, who think that somehow there's a purity of the books which we are disturbing by making them into films. But the younger members of the family don't feel that. And I suspect Tolkien would have been in favour of it. Now, I put that to his granddaughter recently, and she said, oh, he'd have loved it. He used to be an amateur actor. So I think he would have been very interested, and perhaps he would have got involved in writing the scripts, who knows. But it has been the fate of many great novelists to have their works put onto the screen, whether it's Jane Eyre or Charles Dickens and John le Carré, and plays too. I mean, Shakespeare put on screen. But I think the defence is always that Shakespeare's plays remain to be done on the stage, and Jane Austen and Charles Dickens, J.R.R. Tolkien can still be read, and are read. I mean, I was coming through an airport the other day, and The Hobbit was #1 in the bestsellers. So that shows that the films are bringing people back to the books.
There's a very persistent hand here in the front row, I think, probably didn't like.
In a duel, do you think you could beat Voldemort as Gandalf the Grey?
Yes, the question we've all been asking.
I don't know who Voldemort is, frankly. But I'm sure Gandalf would see him off. He doesn't have that many magical powers, and Gandalf's powers only really work when he needs them to work. In other words, he puts into his, it's his spirit that informs his innate magic, and I think Gandalf's spirit is superior to any other wizard that I've come across, and I think that's what would make him defeat anybody in those wretched Potter movies. or even see Magneto off.
I think we will have to leave it there, but I'll have to leave it with the Hobbit. I'm afraid, I mean, unless we have time for one more question, I'm having a quick question. Shall we? One more question. A question ready from the back, because people from the back haven't been represented by so far.
I haven't got those things of mine, Jennifer. Just get ready.
Peter Jackson's a big fan of...
Speak up.
Peter Jackson's a big fan of the high frame rate technology. I was just
Yes.
wondering what you think of it and whether you can see it.
Yes.